to the UIAAA Connection podcast. GoFan and VNN are proud to be the exclusive sponsor of the UIAAA Connection. Now a combined company, GoFan and VNN provide a seamless integration for digital ticketing and athletic websites. Direct your fans to one place for all your athletic events, communications, and tickets to home and away games. Thank you to GoFan and VNN for their exclusive sponsorship of the UIAAA Connection.
Welcome back to another edition of the UIAAA Connection. I'm your host, Mark Hutch Hunter. Today we have as our special guest Barry Smith, the Director of Athletics at North Sevier High School in Salina, Utah. Welcome to the podcast, Barry.
Thank you.
Let's have you begin by sharing with our audience here in the U.S. and around the world where you grew up, where you went to school, your first job, etc.
Yeah, I grew up in Circleville, Utah. Paiute High School was where I went to high school growing up. My dad coached wrestling there and cross country, so those were the sports I had to do and chose to do. Anyway, I was raised in an athletic family, but we also owned a dairy farm, so we would do athletics and then go home and milk cows and come back and do the same thing again.
And and so that work never stops. Like that's 7 days a week, like what, twice a day, correct?
For sure, yeah. And then of course we raised our own crops too, so we farmed as well. So yeah, it's a year-round, everyday deal.
And what made you decide that you were going to go into education and not do the farming part?
Our farm was small enough that that size of farm was starting to be phased out. But really, I wrestled in college for a couple years at Colorado Northwestern, and if I wouldn't have got that start and got those 2 years, I probably wouldn't have ever got an education. I got far enough in that I thought, well, first of all, I believed I could do it at that point, and then second of all, I thought, well, I didn't do that for nothing. So I ended up going to SUU and finishing up and getting my bachelor's and going into education. The whole time, I really thought that I would probably still be a farmer and a teacher. That really hasn't happened.
Okay. Let me ask you a little bit, if you grew up in, obviously in Circleville there, the chance to play youth sports probably not as available to you as possibly it is in the bigger cities. But so did you have like summer baseball? Did you have football in the fall, basketball? How did that work?
Yeah, I mean, believe it or not, I actually did play basketball one year, but I think my dad put me in wrestling shoes to play basketball to make sure I never did it again. I did play baseball growing up, and my dad did start. Him and Kerry Anderson from Wayne County kind of started that. And Frank Houston from Panguitch too. Those three kind of started that youth league down through that area for wrestling. So we really did have a pretty good opportunity to participate in sports as youth. As far as wrestling went, and baseball, there was a little league, and then there was the traveling league as you got a little bit older. So I felt like there was a decent opportunity. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Let me have you talk for a minute, Barry, about some of the mentors and leaders you've had in your life, both as a young man and as an older person in education.
Yeah, I've had so many, and I think part of that, having a father as a coach, then they're friends with all the other coaches, and so not only coaches, my father is a coach, but all the other coaches that coached sports at the time at Paiute, Greg Allen, and even teachers like Scott Bagley and Candy Sylvester, they had so much influence on me. Frank Houston in Panguitch, and I ended up working my first 5 years in Panguitch with Frank. But and then he's a big reason I ended up there. But yeah, I mean, the list just goes on and on. I've had so many. I do believe sports is what keeps a lot of people in school. It kept me in school, or at least advanced me in school. And yeah, I mean, the staples of my life are really coaches and some teachers.
That's a great list of people that you mentioned. Let me ask you as a follow-up, then what made you decide to leave Panguitch and I assume then go up to Salina to North Sevier?
Yeah, I thought I was going to be in Panguitch forever. They had a reduction in enrollment. Last guy hired, and there's some things happened there to where I could see I better just take the chance to go while there was a job open. I still love Panguitch. I hated to leave there, but Salina's worked out good too. I've been there 21 years, so it wasn't a bad move, but I could have stayed in Panguitch and been just fine as well.
Let me ask you a little bit of a personal question here, Barry. What's your biggest failure or disappointment in life, and what did you learn from it?
I can't think of like one failure that's just like but I've had my share. I mean, I think we fail. I mean, if you don't fail regularly, you don't grow, right? So
Exactly.
There was things like, I mean, I had a goal to be a 4-time state champion. As a sophomore, I broke my leg, so obviously halfway through the season, hadn't lost a match yet in high school up to that point. And so obviously that was a big setback, but and you just come back and battle through it. The next year I lost a match I wasn't supposed to lose in the state tournament, so state champion, became a 2-time state champion. And later you find that there's much get worse than matters. And as a coach, you try things and sometimes it works. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So I have failures all the time, but I can't think of one just failure that
Sure.
just sticks out above all others.
Understandable. So let's talk then. You've been at North Sevier for 21 years, then I assume you coach there a lot of the time. Then the AD job came open. You wanted to be the AD. I'm sure you were there back when Craig Gladwell was there, at least for a few years before he moved up to Lehigh. So talk about that a little bit.
Gladwell left right when I came to North Sevier, so we didn't work together, but I know Craig. And I even stepped away and things struggled. And I had my own boys in there, so I went back to it. And really, when I became AD, they asked me to. It wasn't necessarily that I went looking for the job. They asked me to take it. So I have done that, athletic director and coach, the last few years. My coaching days are definitely coming to end, though, and so I love athletics. I want to be part of it in some way, and to stay athletic director is a good way to do that.
Let me ask you, since you become AD, what are the changes that you've seen just in the time that you've been the athletic director?
Yeah, do you mean within my school, or do you mean?
Well, just as being an AD, because obviously, they give you the job as AD and they always have that other stuff, but it seems to me the other stuff keeps getting bigger and bigger. So how has that affected you down there at North Sevier?
Exactly. Yeah, and really the hardest thing is that there's not a class hour or anything like that to do it. It's just on your own time, and so it's hard to do the things that you'd like to do as an athletic director in a school our size with really no extra time. But I mean, the biggest thing is for me as athletic director is making sure that we put on the best event possible for the athletes. That we give the coaches the support they need. I've had good and bad as a coach where I felt supported and I didn't feel supported. So I want to make sure those coaches feel supported and have the help they need to do what they're trying to do for the athletes.
Sure.
I don't know if I answered your question very good, but
no, you're fine. That's some great insight. Let me ask you. You became the AD, so then how did you find out about the UIAAA? How did you become involved in that, et cetera?
Rich Barton that was at Richfield, as soon as I became AD, he reached out to me and let me know how important it is to be part of some of this and to get those certifications and the credentials to And so a lot of that comes back to Rich just reaching out to me and let me know how important that stuff is.
And has the district been supportive of ADs in general, or has that been? I know Rich said there was a couple of times that he found the district not as supportive as they could have been. I'm wondering if that's changed or if they treat you pretty good.
Yeah, they're supportive. There's things that we'd always like to have better, of course, but they are supportive of. In fact, it's important for them that they have someone that's got the CAA at each school and stuff. So they're supportive in the sense that they realize that there needs to be an athletic director and that someone needs to be doing those things. But there's a lot of places where, of course, we would like to have a little more support.
Sure. Sure. Talk about your observations of your athletic program there at North Sevier. I realize that it's a little bit smaller, if I understand correctly. It's certainly not as big as Richfield High or as big as South Sevier. I think you're in a different classification. Talk about maybe some of the struggles you have with having to travel, maybe more than some of the other schools in Sevier County. And in general, the kids there and what a blessing it's been for you to be there.
Right. Yeah, we definitely, like you say, we are in the same classification as South Sevier now because they're back in the 2A. But they're one of the bigger schools in the classification, and we're one of the smaller ones. Mm-hmm. And yeah, the travel we're actually glad to have the regions change a little bit here with the new alignment. Our last region, we have San Juan and Grand on one end and North Summit and Duchesne on the other. We're the only school even close to us is Gunnison. So it's going to be nice to actually have Millard in our region again, where there's one other school that we're not traveling quite so far to. The travel restraints are hard. And just the number battle, just trying to get athletes out. I have visions, and I'm talking to our coaches and things. We have kids, but we have to build athletes. It's not that I'm not saying other schools don't have it the same way do, but it's not like you walk the hall and you think that kid's just completely athletic and ready to go. We have to find a kid that's willing to get in the weight room and willing to do the work to make themselves more athletic to where they can be part of our sports programs and compete on a respectful level.
So let me see if I heard you correctly. Your current region, I'm not sure I realize this. You have road games as far away as Colville and over into to Moab, not San Juan, though, right?
Yeah, we have San Juan as well. We have Blanding and Moab and Duchesne.
Duchesne. So
yeah.
Let me ask you this. So Duchesne's in your league. So do you go across I-70, cut up to get to Price, obviously before you get to Green River, then take that road up to Duchesne that way, or do you go up the freeway and then go up Provo Canyon and out to Duchesne that way? I mean, there's not like a direct road there.
There's not. I drive bus as well. When I drive, we go Indian Canyon. We go up through Emery County and that way. But some bus drivers like to go that other way. It's just a little bit shorter to go Indian Canyon way. But it's a little bit more of a narrow. That road through Emery County is not as bad as it used to be. And they've widened the Emma Park area and stuff of it. Indian Canyon, it's not as bad as it used to be. But I prefer that way. But some of the others prefer the other. So,
but going over the summit in the wintertime can be a little bit scary, I would think.
Yeah, both ways can. Indian Canyon can be terrible, and so can going up Strawberry. So.
Yeah, well, that's true. You'd have Strawberry on the other end, so yeah, I guess you kind of pick your poison.
Right.
Let me ask you this, Barry. What's one common myth about being an athletic administrator that you'd like to debunk to the general public?
Well, I don't think people have any clue how much work there is. And a lot of it, I mean, I've found ways to build relationships and get people helping me to where we're doing things for the team, not just me doing it. But for every event, whether it's the whether it's the stuff on register my athlete or whether it's the arbiter and all the other behind the scenes stuff that no one even has a clue. I mean, I shouldn't say no one, but a lot of people just don't realize how much really is going on behind the scenes to make things happen. I guess the myth in the small schools is that it doesn't need to. It's not a position. It's just a side thing, and really it needs to be a position.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's well said. What's the favorite part of your job, Barry?
The biggest part of my job is, well, the part I get paid for is to be a school counselor.
Right. But what's your favorite part?
My favorite part.
Right.
Absolutely. Just being with the athletes, watching them perform. I mean, even as an athletic director, you're still a coach, right? So, sure. I mean, the basketball players, even, I don't know basketball, but talking about their game with them, you know, celebrating their successes, their improvements. That's it for me. That's number one. It's just being able to see improvement and identify it and help students recognize their success.
Well said. Let me ask you, we'll finish up with a couple of questions, Barry, and let you get on your way. The first one being, you've got 2 suggestions for a brand new athletic administrator. They need to follow Barry's suggestions in order to become a success. What would your 2 suggestions be?
Make sure the secretary and custodian are on your side, and just build relationships with everyone you can. The more relationships, the more productive, positive relationships you build, the more successful you're going to be. Get people on your side that are willing to help you.
Great pieces of advice. Thank you for sharing that. We'll finish up with this. Barry, what question should I have asked you that I failed to ask you?
Oh, I don't know. I think you've done really well.
Well, those are kind words. On that note, that wraps it up for this edition of the UIAAA Connection. Again, our special guest today has been Barry Smith, the Director of Athletics at North Sevier High School in Salina, Utah. Barry, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you.
For our listeners, we hope you tune in again next week for another edition of the UIAAA Connection.